Today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to glaze. This is the piece we're going to be working on here. It's a blue dresser. This has 2 coats of Corinth blue on it, which is sadly discontinued. It's a really pretty color. Really bright though, so I want to tone it down a little bit with the glaze. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and let me tell you what you need. Alright, here's what you're going to need for glazing. You'll need a brush. I like to use the Purdy XL Cub, a wet paper towel, and glaze. I'm using Burnt Umber from General Finishes on this. And also a glove, because your hands are going to get really messy. So if you're protecting a manicure, you definitely wear gloves. I went ahead and distressed the edges of this. I like to distress before I glaze, so the glaze settles into the wood and really gives it a nice color. But let me move this. All we're going to do is get to work. Now, glaze is runnier than paint. You can see. I am going to quickly just brush it all over the drawer. Some places heavier than others. No real rhyme or reason to strokes or anything like that. You're just going to glaze one section at a time so it doesn't get away from you, it doesn't get too dry before you move on. These drawers are nice and small, so we shouldn't have any problem on that. And then once I get to the main part of the dresser, I'll do, the side, then the front, and then the other side of it. Okay, so there's what it looks like. Nothing pretty yet. Grab your paper towel. You can use a dry paper towel or a wet one if you want more control. I don't want this to be super heavy, so I used a wet one. And you're really going to wipe most of it off. You're going to let it settle in the cracks, any of the imperfections, some of the brush strokes is what it's going to highlight. So it's going to give it the aged look that we like. The trick to glazing is not making it look too streaky. Even though you did brush on a dark paint and then you're wiping it back off, you don't want it to look like that. So you just have to keep working it until you really get the look that you like. And that's about where I want it. Which is a little bit hard to see. I left it a little bit heavier here and here, and this is going to be around where the poles are. So it's going to look like there's some age and some dirt left over, and then you can see how it really soaked into the wood and gave it a really nice color there. Now if you mess it up, you have your wet rag, so you can pretty much wipe it all the way off and start again fresh. And if you really mess it up, you can always let this dry and go back over it with paint and start fresh there. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going with this, and I will get it put together. And after this is all dry, you should use a top coat, flat or satin, whatever your preference is, however shiny, and that'll just seal it all in. All right, I'll check in with you in a little bit. All right, y'all, one more thing to check on the glazing before we call it all done. So here is the dresser. Because you kind of do all the drawers and then you come back and you do the dresser, sometimes when you put it back together, all of a sudden you see there's like a total spot you missed, or one spot is way more glazed than another. So you put it all back together and you just double check. And I feel like it's hard to see in this light, but it looks glazed everywhere and it looks pretty consistent. So I'm going to say that's good, but that's just a good double check. Put it back together before you put your hardware on and everything, and just make sure it's one even finish over the whole thing. All right, I can't wait to show you the finished product. It's coming together.